If you're newish to fam, you probably haven't talked much or heard much about me because I've been pretty quiet about the last 6 months. I'm Leslie, mom of 3. I have 3 fabulous children. Mallory, my daughter's 19. I have a son, Noah, who's 8. And Paxton, my baby caboose, who's forever 4. I'm sorry. Bear with me. And I'm pacing because I am really nervous being up here in front of all of you people. I'm better at typing and writing and hiding behind a computer than I am talking publicly. So my baby caboose, Paxton, was diagnosed May 19. We had moved up to Seattle from SoCal about, I don't know, maybe 8 months prior to that. We're settling in our new lives in the Seattle area. And I'm bathing the boys who are in the bathtub, and I notice, gosh, Paxton's tummy looks a little big tonight. Maybe he just needs to poop, because constipation with some of our kids, you know, is an ongoing issue that we're always battling. And we'd always battled with him. So didn't think much about it, yada yada, went on about our day. You know, next day was school and preschool and all that good stuff. And, you know, it went on for a few more days, and he just seemed to be getting a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger every day. And I noticed that he had always had an umbilical hernia, which, if you guys don't know, you know, will pop out sometimes, you know. And as I knew I could reduce it normally, so if you can reduce it, meaning you can push it back in, it's not that big of a deal, yada yada. You're safe. You're not having any kind of like intestinal entrapment syndromes or anything. But long story short, belly button wouldn't go back in. So then I have an oh shit moment. There's a problem here. He started running a low-grade fever. So I told my husband, I said, I'm gonna call one of my girlfriends. I happen to also be an emergency room nurse. Okay? So there's a lot of guilt there. And my kid was sick. I should have noticed. I should have used my clinical skills to be able to recognize that there was something going on. But I called one of my colleagues, who happens to be one of my fellow ED physicians I work with, and I said, listen, Emily, this is what's going on. I'm concerned. I think, you know, there's something going on. And she said, okay, we'll take him into Children's and go have him looked at. Got him to Children's in the ER at 10 o'clock at night after I'd worked a 12-hour shift that day, and I'm dead. And they say, okay, well, let's do blood work. Inflammatory responses, or the inflammatory markers, his CRP and his ECRP, were elevated. So let's do an ultrasound. We're going to check for appendicitis or check the bowel. And I brought him to the ultrasound room, and he lays on the little bed, and he's just looking up at the text so sweetly and so innocently. And I see this blob on the ultrasound machine. Not an ultrasound tech, nurse. Not an expert in ultrasound, but I can know when I see something on the screen that does not look like an organ. So I had like this weird kind of surreal moment of, what's that? That's a tumor. Of course, the ultrasound tech can't diagnose anything, right? You know, we go back to the room, wait a little bit, the resident comes in and says, we want to just check him one more time. We're going to go back to ultrasound. Ding, 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 ding. Now mommy dar's going off real bad. Okay, like I know something's seriously wrong. We go back and I get a better look at it, and I'm like, yep, my kid's got cancer. Doctor comes in and says, there's a tumor. It's large. It's serious, and it's oncologic in nature. And the floor was ripped out from underneath me. Just like all of you. And I know you share my pain. So, then of course, fast forward, you know, all of a sudden we're planning a port. We're doing biopsies. We're doing all of these little surgeries for, prepping for radiation and chemo, and, studies and all these talks back and forth. And we settle into treatment. And initially when we, were first diagnosed, everybody comes and they're, we're going to help you. We're going to do meal trains. We're going to send you gift cards, yada, yada. Great. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I stopped working, obviously. And then things kind of died off. We settled down into our treatment. 17 and a half months of treatment. He's approaching end of therapy, and I told my providers, I said, there's something wrong. I don't feel good about this. I have an intuition. Every time I've had a strong intuition, I've been right. And I don't want to be right. But I've been right. And it means something's wrong. He's fine. His scans are fine. Blood work's fine. He looks great. Clinically, his belly is nice and just not, right?
Yeah.
No Buddha baby. Nice and flat. So, okay. We finished treatment. We do endless treatment scans. We get the A-OK. Everything looks beautiful. That was Halloween in 2020. We had 6 weeks off. The week before Christmas, I noticed, gosh, his belly's looking big again. He looks like a little Buddha. Wouldn't let me touch it. Guarding. So I called the hemoc team and I said, no, there's a problem. He's got to come back in. And they fought me. No, I want a CAT scan. No, I won't accept it. Guess what? Tumor was back in the exact same spot, the exact same size. Grapefruit. It's on my tiny baby's body. And he had already reached his lifetime radiation limit. They did whole abdomen radiation. They fried his kidneys, his liver, his bowel, his bladder, everything. Fried everything. So we already knew radiation was off the table. When you have a kid that's stage 4 embryonal rhabdomyosarcoma, your survival rate to begin with is 50% or less. The odds are not good. When you have a relapse, you have a percentage of 25% or less survival rate. Even worse. So my kid's gonna die. We did biopsy just to make sure there weren't any genetic changes. Everything came back normal from what the previous tumor was. We did 1 round of chemo. He started internally bleeding. His liver started to fail. He had ascites, which is fluid collection within the abdominal cavity that he couldn't drain off. You know, sometimes you can puncture a little needle through and do a paracentesis and allow that fluid to drain off. But because he was internally hemorrhaging, they couldn't. It wasn't safe to do so. He would have died on the table. So our options were hospice or hospice. At the point, I had a healthy baby for 6 weeks. And again, the floor was ripped out from underneath me. We knew he relapsed on December 20th, and he died on January 12th. There was no time. There's no time. We're in Seattle, but all our family's in Texas, because that's where both my husband and I grew up, so we have no support up there, other than the few people that we've met since we've been there. Thankfully, our parents have been able to come up and down and support when needed, but for the most part, we're pretty well alone. I mean, we have to kind of figure it out ourselves. So my husband and I have done so, just like so many of you else do. One parent stays at the hospital, the other one does, you know, the home stuff, whatever. And so we called our family and said, hey, come up. You know, if you want to see him, come up. Going home on hospice. And they came up. He died. He went home. They went home, and now I have to live with it by myself. It's a very lonely road. What I didn't add was that both of my boys also have a genetic condition called Fragile X syndrome. It's a genetic disorder that is passed from the mother's X chromosome that creates a whole host of different problems. Autism spectrum disorder is part of that dual diagnosis. Epilepsy is another one. Global developmental delays, speech delays, mobility problems. It's kind of quite a long sequela of things. I never got to hear Pax say, "Mommy, I love you." I never got to hear those words from my son. He told me in his own way, but I never got to. It was hard, really hard. And I really didn't want to come on this trip. I had to step away from fam for a little bit for obvious reasons. I needed some time for me because so much of my adult life, having children, has been invested in them and their livelihood and their well-being, and you know, I'm second fiddle. And I wasn't going to come. I was excited for the moms that were coming, that had this opportunity to come, and Milk asked me, and I said, no, it's too soon. I can't do it. My husband and I talked, and then Amber and I talked later, and okay, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone, and I'm going to come. And then I wasn't going to come again. And then I decided I'm going to come. And then this last week, I didn't want to come again. And I had to be talked off a ledge, even yesterday, where I was like, oh, I can't do this. This is too uncomfortable. This is totally out of character. This is not me, you know? But I'm really thankful that now that I'm here and I've been able to meet so many of you wonderful ladies in person, and you too, that I needed it and I didn't even know I needed it. You know, I didn't even realize that this is such a beautiful thing that we're all doing and we're all sharing here together with one another. And that we come from so many different walks of life, yet we can all come and love one another under these very niche circumstances that nobody outside of our world knows a fucking thing about. Amen. That no one can relate. You can sympathize, but you can't empathize. Right. They don't share our pain or our struggle. And so I'm really thankful for all of you. I am.
We're thankful that you're here.
Thankful for listening to me blubber because I'm a crier. I'm sorry. And I'm bipolar, where I'm okay, you know, 1 minute, and then I'm just not. I fall to pieces. I mean, it's been 3 months, and I know that's not a lot of time.
No.
And it still doesn't feel real. It still doesn't feel like this is my life.
Can I just say, like, how totally proud I am that you can crawl out from under your covers in the morning?
That's right.
I mean, like, this is huge because I can't imagine standing in your flip-flops right now. I can't. I just can't imagine. So, I mean,
thank you. And I've been called brave. I've been told all these things. I've been complimented and commended and all this stuff. But, you know, it doesn't... I know you're genuine. Don't. don't
know,
say this
talk
in
it,
any way.
no, be honest.
But
Talk
like
is bullshit.
but talk is bullshit. Okay?
It is. Talk is bullshit.
For rhabdo, we are still using the same frontline treatment that they invented in the 60s.
That's right.
It is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. It is unacceptable that our children should still be dying. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I know I'm not done with cancer. I know I'm not done with cancer. Even though Paxton is no longer in this world, cancer's still in my life because I still have to reap the aftermath. So I'm going to muddle my way through it, figure it out as I go, and probably make a lot of mistakes and cry a lot too.
I like to tell my friends that cancer is the gift that keeps on giving. Because
Yeah.
it does.
And it's the gift that no one wants. It's that horrible white elephant gift that you can't give away, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. I love you all, beautiful people.
We love you.
That was tremendously terrifying. I'm done.